Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talent App Store's webinar today, which is on the blockchain and how you can see it and use it and market to change your recruitment experience. Thanks for joining us, and we've got a couple of great guests with us today to talk about that blockchain technology. And they have founded a fantastic company called Reputationaire. It's an early stage startup. And we've got Andrew Hine, who's the founder and CEO, and Dee Kulkarni, who's the CTO. And they're doing something pretty cool with some data that we all have on us, which is currently not really being tapped, and bringing it to the table to use as part of a recruitment experience. So I'm going to hand over to Andrew now to give us a little bit of background in terms of what is blockchain, because it's one of those words that gets thrown around that it's a little bit intimidating, and I think every time someone explains it to me, it's slightly different again. But hopefully Andrew can give us a really good insight into exactly what blockchain is and how they've taken the capabilities of blockchain and turned it into something that's pretty powerful with Reputationaire. So thanks for joining us, Andrew. If you want to give us a quick overview in terms of who you are, your background, and then kind of get us into that whole blockchain piece, that would be great.
Sure. So my name's Andrew Hine. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Reputationaire. I'm quite a techie geek. So my master's at Oxford University was sponsored by the UK Intelligence Service. So hopefully I understand a bit about security and privacy. And then I've always been an IT contractor. So I used to work at Census in big data. So I kind of get this whole technology space a little bit. So we use blockchain as our data store in Reputationaire. And blockchain is basically a distributed database, which means that it's a database where the data exists on many computers at the same time, and all the computers agree that that data is trustworthy and correct. And because of the way blockchain works, it's actually very difficult for somebody to hack in and change that data. There's many different consensus mechanisms, they're called. And you might have heard that, like Bitcoin, which is one of the biggest blockchains, they use a lot of computing electricity and power to actually keep the blockchain secure and make it very hard for people to hack it, because obviously people's Bitcoins are at stake. So we use Reputationaire. We use the blockchain to store users' reputation, so they're socially verified ratings that are built up on any website. And yeah.
Cool. And so in terms of, you guys have got a pretty cool story, Dee, I think from your personal experience, about how you had the idea around how you could take that fantastic data. Do you maybe just want to kind of talk us through what your experience was, and then how you guys have come together and collaborated to use that technology to create Reputation?
Yep. Hi, I'm Dee Kulkarni. And I am the co-founder and CTO of Reputationaire. And just to give you a little bit of context, when I moved to Australia 2 years ago, I was fairly disadvantaged because I did not have any local references. And the only way I could secure a tenancy agreement in Melbourne was to have like a friend or family who lives here, or maybe a landlord whose house I stayed at, to give me a reference, which I did not have at that point. So after living in my Airbnb at that time for nearly 6 weeks, my last resort was really to try and use my Airbnb reputation to prove that I'm a good guest. I had quite a few reputations over time that I had, stayed in different Airbnbs. So what I did was really, I took a printout of my Airbnb profile and I stuck it with my tenancy application, and I handed it over to the real estate agent, and I was just crossing my fingers that proved as a local reference. And initially, the real estate agent's like, well, I'm not sure if you're going to accept it, but yeah, I guess it works because Airbnb is a known brand. So if Dee is a good guest at Airbnb, it's likely that she's a good guest or a good tenant as well. And that's how I secured my first apartment in Australia. But then that got me thinking, that there's so much potential and there's so much value that's currently locked in all of our online reputations. And the worst part is that no one actually is actually leveraging their online reputation in different spaces. So let's say you're an Uber driver. We recently have Ola in Australia. Now, if you were a 5-star driver in Uber, you unfortunately have to build that reputation from scratch if you wanted to become an Ola driver. Let's say I have worked all my life in India and I have to work in Australia. I have to build my reputation from scratch, despite having so many years of experience back home. So even with recruiting, like there's so many different fields where you can potentially just reuse your reputation, because as a person, as a human being, you don't really change where you go. You're the same person at the end of the day. And in terms of recruitment, there's so many different avenues where you can prove that you're skilled and trustworthy. So for instance, if you worked in IT, then you could use your GitHub or Stack Overflow, or even your LinkedIn to prove that you are skilled and trustworthy. So that's really where the motivation came from, to help people leverage their reputation in different spaces.
Cool. And so I think, and it's a great story. What would be great if you guys could maybe take us a little bit through the product now. And I think, Andrew, you've got some slides that you're able to share with us and kind of walk us through that journey a little bit more and help people understand a little bit more of how they might be able to use this technology in their own recruitment processes.
Sure. Are the slides visible to everybody?
Yeah, I can see them. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So as Dee was saying, we believe there's like a massive value locked away in people's ratings that are built online, and these vary from like their tech and job skills for like IT in particular, some sites like GitHub and Stack Overflow, which I know many recruiters are already looking at manually, and also like their interpersonal and their kind of culture value add skills about how they treat other people. So that's on sites like Airbnb and like Uber and these other sites where you interact with people and then you're rated in return. So that gives like a great insight of how you treat other people and other people's spaces. So we built Reputationaire to allow employers and recruiters access to these socially verified data. Again, this is all blockchain based. So once the users have their data verified on the blockchain, it's very hard for that to be changed. But obviously it's updated over time as their ratings change. So as Dee was saying, there's 800,000 migrants every year to Australia, many of who struggle to secure like their first-time rental or job because they have no local experience. So we've seen Reputationaire can be a really great way of finding like the diamond in the rough. So it's finding these people who do have these great tech skills and even interpersonal skills, but otherwise would be ruled out by conventional hiring processes for whatever reason. But on top of that, there's organizations who do like volume or bulk recruiting, who have like thousands of applicants for like a single job role, and obviously need some automated way to filter that out. So perhaps Reputationaire could help, especially in like the hospitality and the jobs where personal skills are important, to help find like these people who've got like good socially rated skills.
Yeah, and I think when we talked the other day, we touched on, the need for things, retail, like healthcare areas where, oftentimes you're learning the skills on the job, but what you're really looking for is somebody who's going to show up, they're going to have nice manners, they're going to treat people well, and the kind of data that you're gathering as part of this product is, they're all independent testimonials, really, aren't they? Which, it builds up over time. And I don't know how many times people sit around the dinner table having a conversation about maybe their Uber rating, and that they're fantastic insights into the way people are when they don't think they're being watched.
Yeah, totally. So obviously we believe that ratings prove applicants' skills and their addition to culture. And like Lisa was saying, these are socially verified. So these have been verified by like strangers. So Dee stayed with I think 15 different strangers in her Airbnb who she stayed in their physical home. So had a real meaningful interaction where she had to be polite and clean and respectful and all these things. Whereas I've seen some scary statistics, so 85% of recruiters have found lies on CVs, and 70% of background checks find red flags. And obviously there's all these expensive psychometric testing that's done, and obviously that takes a lot of time and costs a lot of money. So maybe this is another way of maybe shortcutting that process, or saving some time, or improving on it, using data that's already available but currently locked away. So accessing these ratings is difficult. Obviously LinkedIn is quite easy. You can search someone by name, but then you have to wonder how reliable are these references and endorsements that people have gotten. Whereas sites like Airbnb, it's very hard to find, it's virtually impossible to find other people. So Reputationaire gives access to this data which is otherwise locked away and very hard to access.
Yeah. I'm just wondered if there was anyone that's listening right now that had any questions for Andrew or for Dee at this point. No? Cool. Sorry, keep going. I just thought I'd just make sure that we had an opportunity. I can see that we've got a few people listening in here.
Yep. So at Reputationaire, we provide instant access to these users' socially verified ratings and reviews. So this can be useful for determining if applicants are trustworthy, either as a pre-screening of bulk volume recruitment roles where you get a lot of job applicants, or either for finding the diamond in the rough. So this is finding people who you'd otherwise ignore, and letting them prove that they have the verified job and tech skills, and also interpersonal and culture skills to help them do the job at a high level. Mm-hmm. So we're working with several companies, including Refugee Talent, who specifically help find refugees jobs. So we strongly believe, so I actually stepped aside from full-time employment to work on my life mantra, which is to make a significant improvement to the world I'm remembered for. And we think that by giving users ownership of this data, allowing them to prove that they are skilled and trustworthy and reputable people, and help them improve their life situation, hopefully is some way we can do that. So one thing that's important to point out is Reputationaire is all applicant driven. So like we discussed earlier, we use the blockchain to store users' ratings. And the way blockchain works is only the user who holds the key to that account, a bit like the key to their Bitcoin wallet. They're the only person who can actually access their data and prove that they own that, and then share that to other people. So in a Bitcoin transaction, that's sending someone Bitcoin. In Reputationaire, that's proving that you have ownership of these verified ratings. We strongly believe in privacy and ownership of data. So obviously you've heard in the news Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, and in the EU GDPR, all about allowing people to both sign up to a service and to unsubscribe and take their data with them. So data portability is very important to us. So all Reputationaire data that's revealed to an organization, number one, the applicant has to authorize it, and number two, it's a snapshot in time. So the organization doesn't get ongoing access to the user data. They have a one-time view, which they can obviously save to PDF and keep on file, of this verified social ratings, as it was at that point of time, at the point of the application. So the way the process works is we've obviously tried to save as much time as possible for the organizations, because we realize that time and money is something that needs to be saved. So our process is also all applicant driven. So all the organizations need to do is to refer their applicants to Reputationaire, and we do the rest. So organizations have told us that it's very important that if they refer an applicant to us, they want to get back their applicant's verified ratings in return. So our process ensures that once the applicant has signed up, which is just a 5-minute process, when they've linked their ratings from any website that the organization is interested in. So this can include, like we mentioned earlier, like tech skills from GitHub and Stack Overflow, obviously LinkedIn, but also like social and culture ratings from like sites like Airbnb and like TripAdvisor and even eBay, which can determine obviously how trustworthy people are and if they're reputable and responsible people. The applicant then verifies ownership of these profiles. That's obviously super important because you don't want people linking someone else's profile and trying to cash in on their reputation. So we have quite a very strict verification process of ownership. And then once those ownerships are verified, the applicant is then free to reveal those back to the requesting organization who, like I said, get a PDF. At the moment, they get a nice PDF snapshot of those verified ratings for the websites they're interested in at that time. Although we're looking at integrating with various ATSs to provide that in the recruiter's dashboard.
Cool. And I think one of the great things about that, Andrew, is just obviously with GDPR, the fact that you guys you're not passing that information, it's not being stored in a customer's in a customer's database. So there's no concerns around GDPR issues.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Any questions at this point, or do you want to just keep educating us, Andrew?
Dee?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to add to that and stress on the point that this is all user driven, and we believe people should really own and control the data and reputation that they have, and it's really the new currency for people, and that's our vision. So in terms of what the applicants can do, they can work in an anonymous and a non-anonymous mode. So let's say you are quite protective of your reputation, but you're still okay with revealing your reputation, then you can provide an overview of a reputation. And if the employer, for instance, is interested in getting a more detailed view of your reputation, then there is a way to provide a detailed view of the reputation as well. So it's really based on what the recruiter or the employer would want at a given stage in the application process.
Cool. So just obviously keen to make sure that we keep this at a watchable length. So given I don't think we've got any questions, but I think the key thing that I'd love to know from you guys is obviously you're still very much in the early days. What's the best way if we've got either in that like we've talked about some of those volume type recruitment spaces, so retail, hospitality, contact centres, healthcare, where again they quite likely to experience a reasonable percentage of migrant interest in their jobs as well. So a fantastic story from you, Dee, there, and illustrating how it can be used to essentially make these in touch with you guys to learn how I might be able to implement this as and give this a go to see how they might be able to look at screening large numbers of applicants and also verifying the backgrounds of the applicants that they're working with.
Sorry, Lisa, you're breaking up a bit there. Do you mind repeating the question?
Oh, sorry, I was just saying, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if it sounds like a product that might work for them because they're screening large volumes or they may have a high migrant base to their applicant set?
Yeah, so the best way to reach us is reputationaire.com. Andrew, I think you might have to move your slide up a little bit to see the contact information.
Cool. We will fire it through to everyone that's attending, but you guys are Melbourne-based right now?
Yep. We're Melbourne-based, and our target market right now is Melbourne-based recruiters as well. Well, Australia as well. Yeah, if we're super keen to get in touch with volume-based recruiters. We think there's a lot of potential for recruiters when they're recruiting and filtering thousands of applications that take tons of time. That's really where Reputationaire will add a lot of value in saving time and money. And we are particularly interested in signing up foundational clients. And we are also currently part of the Y Combinator Startup School. So we've been getting a lot of advice and insights into what works well and what doesn't. So Y Combinator has been really helping us very well with that. Just to clarify, does everyone here know Y Combinator? It's one of the best accelerator programs based out of San Francisco. We feel quite privileged to be a part of the startup school as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty good validation that there's some pretty awesome big brains that have looked at what you guys are doing and given it the thumbs up. So yeah. I guess for our listeners and people who've taken the time to watch this after the fact, these guys are early stage startup, but it's an opportunity to work with some very clever people who have been validated by some very established and very clever people, and the weight of IBM and behind them and what they're doing. And definitely we're obviously keen to see them progress, and we'll certainly be having an ongoing conversation with Andrew and Dee about how we might look to integrate them and bring them into Talent App Store to make that information available directly into an applicant tracking system. So last call for questions, but otherwise encourage you to follow Reputationaire on social media. They're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn. Andrew and Dee are both super accessible and happy to answer any questions that you might have. And and we'd obviously love to facilitate some client introductions for you, because we definitely want to see you flying over the next 12 months and really getting stuck into that market. So last call for questions, if we have any. Doesn't look like anyone wants to take themselves off mute, so we might call a wrap in there, and just that last. Make sure you guys get in touch with Andrew and Dee, and thanks very much for joining us today.
Great, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.